to the dog returning to its vomit is showing how disgusting of a habit that is. And he's also showing that in the end, they don't get anything out of it because vomit is a low thing in any language. So by trying to take the gift back, it's as if you've made it a low thing now. You are like a dog. You've approached something and you haven't received the full benefit. Imam Ahmed said, I disagree. The dog having the ability to return to the vomit is not conditioned on it being kept from that. Because there are two prohibitions in Arabic. One is the mamnu'a, which is where someone is actually hindered, they're physically prevented from something. And then there is the muharram, where they're told not to do something, but they have the ability to do it should they choose so. Imam Ahmed said, we're not debating the ability, we're debating the permissibility. Then he said, you should notice in the beginning of the hadith that it says, we do not have the likeness of the sin. And the lawgiver has not sent the sharia except to forbid sin. And anything which would be called sin, the lawgiver would forbid. Therefore, it would be impermissible, haram, to attempt to take back a gift. So here you have two zahir things. Because we can see in the hadith, both applications could be taken, couldn't it? Both applications couldn't they? And the zahir, the most correct one, would have to be taken by what someone saw after looking at all the proofs or all the evidence. I leave that up to you in your own research. But it's an example of a zahir. It's a clear text, but it has two clear possibilities. No one could derive a third one. It only has two. No one could go for a third one. There's only two. Right?
Please repeat the second one.
The second one? Which one?
The second one that you said.
The second type of mubayyin?
No.
The second reason why.
The second reason.
The second reason why it's impermissible, according to Imam Ahmed. Imam Ahmed said it is permissible. So the question was, I was asked to repeat why Imam Ahmed thought it was impermissible. Imam Ahmed thought it was impermissible because the beginning part of the hadith says, we do not have the likeness of the sin who seeks of the one who seeks the return of a gift. The fact that it mentions sin in the beginning of the hadith is very important because Allah has not revealed the Sharia except to forbid sin. And anything that has been forbidden, Allah has sent the Sharia to forbid that sin. And the beginning part says it's a sin. Now the second part of the hadith falls under the same judgment. According to Imam Ahmed, he says you can't separate them. Does everyone understand that reasoning? Okay? Alright. Now we'll move on to, there's a passage in the Qur'an that is zahir as well. It says, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةِ Forbidden to you is dead meat. Surah Al-Ma'idah, the 5th surah, ayah 3. This text is zahir. There are two possibilities that exist. Two possibilities. It says, okay, it's been forbidden from you, the dead meat. Okay. What about, and the same thing is the text that it's been made permissible for you, the dead meat, as well as the swine. Someone could say, well, wait a minute, is it just the meat, or is it the hide of the animal as well, and it's fat? Some people would say, well, it's just the meat. It doesn't matter whether you wear the hide of the pig, you tan the hide and use it. It's just the meat. Allah said, don't eat it. We're not eating it, we're just wearing it. That's one zahir position. The second zahir position, and the more preponderant one, is that no, when the ayah says meita, it's actually forbidding it because the form that it's in, when it has alif lam, means that it's being forbidden in totality. So there's a difference between someone saying, do not speak to those two guys over there, and someone saying, don't speak to all of those guys over there, because now it's got all in it. And this is what the other position says, that listen, it's impermissible, the meat, the fat, to tan the skin and use it, because the word, the alif lam, means that it's in a plural form, where it can't be separated. So you can't say, I'll take this part from it, because you're still taking something from it. And Allah says, it's been made permissible for you, impermissible, the dead meat and the flesh of the swan. It didn't say it's been made impermissible to eat. It just says, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ. Right? So there's those two opinions. Does everyone understand? Okay. Now we'll move on to the third type of mubayyin. The third type of mubayyin is called the umum. It's called the umum. Umum are passages that are all-encompassing and explicit in a general sense, in such a way that they cannot be restricted unless evidence is brought showing that they're restricted. So these are passages that are all-encompassing. They make a statement that is general. Now, when a statement is umum, it cannot be restricted unless there is a clear passage that is actually taking hold of and restricting that text. I'll give some examples. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, فَاقْتُلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ حَيْثُ وَجَدْتُمُوهُمْ وَخُذُوهُمْ وَاحْصُرُوهُمْ. It says, and kill the idol worshippers wherever you find them. Take hold of them and besiege them. Surah At-Tawbah, the 9th surah, ayah 5. Now this is an umum passage, and would appear on its outward import to mean everyone. So does that mean we go over to Shakespeare Street and razz the synagogue to the floor? Or we go to the church and finish up everyone? Because, well, Surah At-Tawbah, ayah 5, here it is. This passage is umum. Now sometimes we can read an umum passage and we know there must be something here that's restricting it. Because umum can have passages that restrict it. So sometimes you read a passage and say, wait a minute, this may need a restrictive passage. Because there are many people who take this passage literally. And they say, well, there you are. Kill the idol worshippers wherever you find them. Take a flight over to India, finish off everyone. That's how they think. Or take a trip down to London, Westminster Abbey, finish. House of Commons, finish. Parliament, finish. Everyone, finish. So we need to ask them, as just a side point, how do we know that this text is restricted, although it's general? We know it's restricted because the very fact that there are Christians and Jews and Hindus and Buddhists and Sikhs in the Muslim world is evidence that the Muslims didn't see that ayah as all-encompassing. Abu Bakr was once had it brought to his attention by another Muslim. He saw some monks in a monastery, and they asked Abu Bakr, what do we do with them? Meaning, do we have this unrestricted position? Abu Bakr said, leave them on their falsehood as they harm no one but themselves. So the earliest position and understanding of the Sahaba is that that passage is restricted. Not only that, but the fact that it appears in the plural means that it is addressing a specific group of people. It would be different if it was just singular, meaning each and every one of you should go and do this. But it's in the plural. And the rightly guided scholars say that that's referring to the job of an actual state. Remember when we spoke before about this issue of initiating movements against people as a group of Muslims that requires state authority. So I just wanted to visit that point again, just to lay minds to rest, inshallah. A second point, a second example of an umum passage. لا تتخذوا اليهود والنصارى أولياء. Do not take the Jews and Christians as friends. Surah Al-Ma'idah, the 5th surah, ayah 51. Someone reads this passage and thinks, Subhanallah, I can't speak to anyone at school. Can't speak to my work colleagues. No, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you. Allah says, don't take Jews and Christians as friends. It's a clear passage, look, it's in there. Allah said in His book. Go to Asda, turn your face away from the cashier. How are you doing today? Leave me alone. Allah says, I do not take Jews and Christians as friends. This is an umum passage. But what is the word awliya referring to? The reference of awliya, friends, is not referring to asdaqa. Asdaqa is actually the sadiq, is the actual friend in that sense, socializing. Allah has not forbidden that. He's forbidden them to be walids, protecting militaristic allies in combat and things like that. Can you imagine? You've got a group of people from Lahore, Pakistan, sitting in a room, and I come to them and say, I'm going to take you as allies. I'm going to launch an attack against Pakistan, specifically the people of Lahore. Will you help me? Oh yeah, sure, we'll help you. They're probably going to slaughter me the moment I turn my back. So this is one of the reasons why you do not take them as protecting allies in warfare, because when you take a people that you're actually having military conflict with as friends in battle, protecting friends, you face the possibility of mutiny, mercenaries, as well as overthrow from inside of the military. Has nothing to do with anything personal or racial. They may be nice people, but militarily, you don't have them as protecting allies. That's why the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he was on the way to redressing the grievances in a battle against the idol worshippers, and a man came and said, I want to assist you. And he said, do you bear witness to La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah? The man said, no, I don't. He said, then move back, because I don't take help from idol worshippers to fight idol worshippers. It's nothing personal against him as a guy. He was a nice guy. But we don't want to take a risk of you being in there and possibly switching sides if you see that it's someone that you respect. Can't take that risk. So that's what reference is being made. Here's another reference of an umum passage. الزاني لا ينكح إلا زانية ومشركة أو مشركة والزانية لا ينكحها إلا زان أو مشرك وحرم ذلك على المؤمنين. The fornicator may not marry any except a fornicatress or an idol worshipper. And a fornicatress may not marry any except a fornicator or an idol worshipper. Such a thing has been made impermissible for the believers. Surah An-Nur, the 24th Surah, Ayat 3. When we read that passage, we'll think, well, that doesn't affect me, it's no problem at all. Fornicator can't marry except someone else who's doing fornication or an idol worshipper. That doesn't affect me. But then we see another umum passage where the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says, the 2 eyes fornicate, the 2 hands fornicate, the 2 feet fornicate, and the private parts fornicate. As related by Imams Ahmed and Tabarani, we think, subhanallah, every time I lift my glance, it's as if I fornicated, so I can't get married ever in my life, because I'm always looking at people when I go outside. Because these 2 passages, when you put them together, it would appear that every time you look someplace or every time you walk someplace or something like this, it's as if you're fornicating or doing adultery. By taking those passages, those umum passages, unrestricted, then we think, subhanallah, I have to find someone else. Excuse me, have you ever not lowered your gaze? Yes, okay, it's fine for us to be married, but I can't be married with someone that has always lowered their gaze because I'm a fornicator or I'm an adulterer. Either mentally or physically or spiritually. Can't do it. This is an example of if you take umum passages that sometimes have restriction and bear them on their literal import. So that's what we've spoken about. We've got mubayyin has 3 times. Nas, Zahir, and umum. Now we come to our second type of passage. This is what is called mujmal. The next type of passage is called mujmal. Mujmal passages have been defined for us by Sheikh al-Islam Muwaffiq ad-Din rahimahullah. He said that mujmal passages are, quote, those passages in which their meanings are not absolutely understood. It is said that it is when there are 2 matters conceivable where one of them does not have superiority over another. An example of this is the shared expressions used like the expression of al-ayn, which is shared between gold and the discerning eye.